Hey folks, it's good to be with you again as we talk faith together once more. Over the last few weeks, Callum and I have been talking faith either in the flat or here down in the church, and it's been an opportunity just for us to discuss through what's been on our mind recently. Feel free to pause the video, go away, make a cup of tea or a coffee and join us as Callum's made lovely coffees for us this morning. And we hope that you are able to join in this conversation and maybe take something from it, a blessing from what has been on Callum's mind recently, and just as we sort of talk that through and flesh that out a little.
I think for me, things that have been kind of on my mind, particularly of late, the word that comes to mind particularly is endurance. It feels like a time for endurance, where, I mean, if you look back, if you imagine back start of the year, if you told each of us that this is how the world would look 7-8 months on, I think we would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
Like the distancing from one another in pretty much every situation possible, not even going into each other's houses, the whole, particularly the kind of full-on lockdown times, distance church, like just life is so bizarre at the minute, and it's not the easiest way to do life. Like we're social. We like to spend time to each other. We like to be close to each other. I mean, maybe not everyone loves a hug, but you know what I mean? Like it's important to have that kind of overlap and that interaction. And when you're forced to be so distant from one another, it can feel quite isolating. And in difficult times in life, well, we require endurance to get to the other side of them, to make it through. When the journey gets tough, you need to endure your way through that. So that's kind of what's been on my mind a little bit.
Endurance is kind of a strong word that comes up to us quite often, the concept of enduring through hard times. This morning in the cafe, I was talking to one of the ladies and she said this phrase of, count your blessings. That actually was kind of inspiring to me, because in difficult times, when we want to be enduring, actually counting through our blessings might be able to help with that. But when times get tough, when things are hard, when the journey is difficult, how do we endure then?
I guess it's got me reflecting on other journeys, on other points in life when things got tough, because in the moment, in the immediate, it can be easy to feel like overwhelmed by what's going on around us. But actually, sometimes when we take that step back and we remember what has been, I think that can help us put things into perspective just a little bit. And for me, there's a particular story that comes to mind, which is from a while ago. We're talking about a decade back. And I had been working out with a project in Bolivia, in Trinidad Beni, one of the cities out there. And I'd been out there for a good chunk of the year or so, come back home briefly, and then headed back out again. But the journey back was, quite remarkable, I guess is the best way to say it. Before even I left, my passport vanished kind of in a mysterious set of circumstances, and there was a frantic panic to get it kind of back again, which just happened in time and no more. But then the journey out there is a long one. Even when things go well, it's a long journey. It takes about 3 days roughly, give or take, to fly from Scotland to Bolivia. You're normally talking a route that goes kind of via America, where you maybe have to go one of the northeastern cities and like kind of New York, and then head down again to Miami, and then on to one of the major cities in Bolivia, like Santa Cruz or La Paz. And then from one of those major cities in Bolivia, you then need to make your way to Trinidad, which is a much smaller city. Not really like an international airport or anything going on there. So at this stage, I've been traveling for 3 days, all the way to Santa Cruz, not staying in hotels or anything overnight. I'm literally just like airport lounges and planes are my only places to get some kind of rest. I'm on my like 4th or 5th wind at this stage, completely exhausted. And I get to Santa Cruz. Now, at that time, it's the middle of the rainy season when like floods upon floods of water come down from the mountains and pass through like the valleys and the rainforest and such like in huge, like incomprehensible quantities. And that has a knock-on effect, as I discovered. So I got my way from the airport to the bus station, hopped on a bus to get over to Trinidad. And I do speak a little bit of Spanish at this stage, but my Spanish isn't fluent. It's competent, but it's not amazing. And I definitely missed something as part of booking my ticket, because I got on the bus ready to go thinking, oh, I can just sit here. It's like a 9-hour bus ride, but I'll get there eventually. And I can just not think about it too much. Well, the bus, it heads out of the city, crosses some of the kind of bridges on the edge of the city, drives a little bit further, and then it stops.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm not the greatest at geography, but I know that we definitely haven't reached Trinidad yet, not even close. And we're all ushered out of the bus. It's like, no, on you go. And I've tried to ask people to clarify exactly what's going on, but through my broken Spanish, I don't get a full picture. But basically, we're ushered out and told to walk in that direction, just head that way. And the road has been like, where it was tarmac up until this point, it's just like mud in a mound. Because the reality of what had happened was that a substantial chunk of the road between Santa Cruz and Trinidad had been washed away, and there only is one road to go. So we were just told to walk, head that way. So I'm absolutely exhausted, carrying like all of my worldly possessions with me in a small suitcase, and just walking. Trudging. And I honestly don't know how long I was walking for. I just know it was like midday sun when I started, and it was dark when I finished. That's all I can say. And there was points in the middle of that walk where I was dead and done, and just wanted to be home, be somewhere safe, instead of being kind of in the middle of the jungle on a weird dirt track, hoping that there was something at the other side of it. Like, I didn't know what was at the other side of that stage. But eventually, after an unknown quantity of time, we reach slightly more tarmac. And on the other tarmac, we find other buses who have basically done the same thing as us. They've got as far as they can drive, they've sent their people off one way, and they've sent us off the other direction. And we got on this other bus, which was like heaven on earth to get onto. And finally this bus heads in the other direction. But life can be like that sometimes. Okay, maybe you're not lost in the middle of the jungle, but there are times when you're just clueless. You've got yourself into circumstance or situation a little bit like this in our world right now, where it is easy to feel lost and uncertain about what the other side looks like. We don't have clear answers, we don't have clear timelines, but yet we are continuing to trudge and to walk even when we're tired and exhausted. And that is the point where we need endurance. And that is the point where I believe that endurance for us comes best from God.
I think after that story, I'm never going to complain about like a bus ride to London again. Like, you know, that's like the furthest I've went, and it was like quite bad, but I don't think I've got any legs to stand on anymore. It's definitely one of those things. Endurance in the heat of that moment is incredibly, because you could just give up and try head back to the bus, or who knows what you can do, kind of feeling a bit lost. Well, when it comes to scripture, is there anything that inspires you from what you've read recently, or from what you've been studying through?
Yeah, one bit that particularly stands out, and there's a number of powerful verses around the idea of endurance, but that we find at the end of the book of Hebrews, where there's this beautiful description in kind of chapter 12, where they talk of running the race with perseverance, the race that's marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus. And I think that picture is maybe one that really helps us get through. There are times when we need to persevere, when we need to endure, when it can feel overwhelming. But how do we get through that moment? Well, rather than focusing on exactly where we are, look to where we're going. And where we're going is Jesus. So for us as Christians, even in this difficult time, there is a call and an invitation for us to fix our eyes on Jesus, that he would be our source of strength, our inspiration, what we're pulling towards, and relying on him and the strength that we can gain from him, even in times like these, which are so uncertain and with much difficulty, and more difficulty, to be honest, ahead.
I think that's the great calling of fixing our eyes on Jesus in this time. You know, keep on running the race. When times get tough, seek endurance by looking to him, and keep pushing through the fight. So that's very encouraging for me. I hope that resonates with some of the people watching as well. Hopefully that can build you up in your walk with the Lord as you seek to endure during this tough and difficult time.